Our presenters tonight are from the Timber Talkers Club. Now, I have known them personally for about 10 years, I think. I used to be an area governor back in the governor days, and they were very close to my home. And I was an area governor for Area 93, and I would visit them. I enjoyed their meetings, and I was impressed by them, and also enjoyed getting to know them as well. The executive team that is with us tonight is past District Governor Dave Hiller, Tom Cronkite, Kristen Webb Thompson, Christopher Aido, and Paul Spangler. The club was chartered about 25 years ago. Collectively, they have about 55 years of Toastmaster experience. They are going to share with us their secrets to a successful club. So please help me give a warm welcome to the Timber Talkers.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, my name is Tom Cronkite, and I'm part of the gaggle from Timber Talkers that's here tonight to talk about our club. And my task is multifaceted. One is I'm going to talk about some intros and our club history, and then introduce some of the rest of the team that's going to walk through a number of their presentations. And so to begin with, I suppose more than anything, I get nominated to be the club elder because I've been in this club, not since the original charter, but not that far off from that. I joined Timber Talkers right at 20 years ago. And in the old days, and I say that very affectionately, we would meet at the Comcast cable facility on Nimbus. They had multiple education rooms. They had even a small auditorium, and we got moved around from time to time. Our club had a number of members that were from Comcast, and that was part of the reason why we got a chance to use their facility. How I got tied in, or more to the point, roped in to come into Toastmasters, is that I was sort of between career pauses. I was a new father and a teacher at a local community college in a class that I took. Suggested, gee, why don't you come to the my Toastmasters Club? And for those of you who might know this name, Jennifer Anderson, that's who got me into Toastmasters a long time ago. Now, time has passed, obviously. I've stayed with Timber Talkers. It is my personal outlet for a lot of things, but not the least of which is I have been privileged to witness really lives change. I've seen people get involved in Toastmasters, learn how to express themselves, on occasion seen their lives change because they were able to advocate for themselves by conquering some of their fears and some of their challenges about speaking up for themselves and speaking in public, and frankly learning how to speak to people they don't know. In the ensuing 20 plus years, I've made a lot of friends. I've gotten a chance to meet people through Zoom, and our club has transformed over that time, and I think, quite frankly, survived and made some pivots that have been important, and some of our members are going to talk about that here in a little bit. I'm going to move on to a couple of things. I want to reiterate one thing that I just said. Lives change. Now, sometimes we get to see somebody come through Toastmasters for a small slice of what they need. I've seen a lot of people come through Toastmasters over 20 years where they came for the specific goal, perhaps a occupational goal, or somebody at their work said, oh, you really need to go to Toastmasters. And they had a specific goal about learning how to present better, or perhaps learning how to communicate openly and in an unscripted fashion more effectively. I've also seen, like I said, lives change in Toastmaster clubs that you would never think of. At least certainly I did. I got a chance to see some fellow Toastmasters in the Oregon correctional system. And it's quite a humbling and amazing experience to see people learn how to advocate for themselves in an environment and in an institution and in a controlled environment, if you will, that they can learn skills that not only help them in that environment, but outside. And I've heard and seen some pretty impressive stories. Many of the people that are going to present tonight have probably seen similar things as well. And part of the story about Timber Talkers is not that we are a specific size or a specific dimension. We have members in our club that are no longer local. They are throughout the country. But we share one experience, and that is that every Tuesday at noon, we get together. And we not only make the best of it, but we have learned that our club culture is also part of what feeds us. And our club culture is kind of goofy. We very deliberately try to laugh. It's often, particularly in a work environment, where humor and expression and safety, and I'm not talking the physical sense, but in the sense of safe communication, that often we are not comforted with the safety to be able to screw up, to say something that, oh boy, that didn't go out right, because sometimes you just don't have the ability to rewind and do it again. And that's part of the magic for our club. And it's been that way since the day I joined it 20 years ago. So I want to thank you all for being here. And I'm going to ask Kristen to take the wheel next to talk a little bit about, from her perspective as the most immediate past president. She's now the secretary and treasurer of our club. And Kristen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, my name is Kristen, and I'm the immediate past president. I was president for a year, and from June 2020, and I'm currently the treasurer and secretary. We're supposed to talk a little bit about the challenges to our success. Every club has challenges. We're no exception. Our club has been around for almost 27 years. There are other clubs that have been around a while. They could probably tell you a thing or two. Toastmasters and guests, tonight it's our turn. I called myself the pandemic president, like it was going to only last a year, but it went a little longer than I planned. The pandemic became more of a real thing around March, April 2020, before my presidency. We were still meeting in person. In March 2020, I was the first one at my company to wear a mask. A week later, others joined me. But what about the club? I was a member. I did not have foresight or a clue that something needed to be done. But then our club president, Terry Wood, took it upon himself to get a Zoom account where we could still gather for our Tuesday meetings. I did not have to do anything. It was all laid out. I just showed up. It worked. The link worked. And I'm so thankful. It's been nice to have that reassuring meeting to come to every Tuesday. March 17, 2020 was our last meeting before going to Zoom. The fire station we were meeting for 8 years told us that they were closing to the public, effective immediately. It was actually time of triple upheaval, pandemic, getting kicked out of our Toastmaster home for 8 years, collecting dues because it was March, April. Thankfully, Toastmasters International let us postpone it until end of April, and deciding if we should, one, pause meetings, combine with another club, go virtual, or try something else. Terry sent out an email and we weighed in. We went virtual. One thing I do recall, that being Toastmaster that summer, after having had a few meetings on Zoom, I did not want to forget how to have live meetings. So when it was my turn to be Toastmaster, I called an outdoor meeting, a la Scott Cobbin, one of our members. He always liked to have outdoor meetings so we could practice our speaking. We had a meeting back live. July 2020, with considerable space around us, between us, at the playground by the fire station where we used to meet. And you know what the theme was? Space. One last hurrah. That was our last face-to-face meeting for the past year and a half. And I see that as a successful example of club support and backing. Because it was a pandemic, I wanted to meet outside. We had plenty of, lowering the viral load. I have pictures. So now's my chance to show you we were outdoors for this meeting. Let me share my screen. And here's Terry. We're outdoors, wonderful sun, podium on top of a garbage can with a towel and a jacket. Here's Ibrahim. He was our grammarian, word of the day. He also took pictures. This is Dave Hiller, who was our timer that day. Ibrahim again. Tom was there. Flowers were there. I just wanted to show you that we could be outdoors. And also, one thing I noticed just yesterday when we had a club meeting, another nod to club success is cohesion. Maybe some other clubs do this too. That is, we have a theme chosen by the Toastmaster of the day, supported by the Table Topics Master, who chooses questions based on the theme, and the grammarian who works out word of the day, going on that same theme. I like it. We're showing how we can be creative, work together, learning and act like a team. It's all about being flexible. Another way we were flexible was with our club success plan itself. Now I'd like to talk about a housekeeping thing that we did. We had able to get that club success plan in writing. This year, the district provided an incentive. Fill out the club success plan and earn a gift certificate. Well, documentation is my thing, plus I'm the club secretary, but I did not want to be the little red hen and do it all by myself. So I asked who wanted to be point man on this, and Dave, our illustrious president this year, wanted to go for it. He said yes, but it meant the rest of the board had to say yes too. And we did it. We met the goal and won a gift certificate. One of the tricky things is we were just days to go before the deadline. Dave handed out portions of the club success plan so that each board member could work on our portion of the plan. I said yes to typing it up and compiling it, putting together the various segments that came in from the board members into one whole. When you're racing to complete a document with several players, it helps to give full instruction. People get busy, they forget what they're committed to, they need things broken down in small parts. Toastmasters is, after all, a volunteer organization. You can only commit to what you feel comfortable doing, and we were not going to be face-to-face. The challenge that day, before the deadline, we had to gather signatures of the board. Clear instructions had to be delivered as to who was going to receive the signature page and in what order. It helps when one signer sends it on to the next signer rather than going back and forth to the compiler. Let's keep it moving. Another hurdle we had to cross was that not everyone had the same software. Some could paste their signature into PDF. Some could not. Some had a printer, some did not. It meant we were working with images as well as PDFs. I had to get them all into one document and sent to the district in time. And we made it because the board was on board to make this thing happen. We all said yes to getting creative and taking a few minutes out of our day to read, see, write our club success plan. I think due to the charity of our individual members, our club has thrived and weathered corners that could have made us spin out of control. From Terry Wood, who set us up for Zoom, other club members like Hillary Greenbaum, who was willing to be president a couple of times. Yes, we had Hillary for president. To Ibrahim Al-Kiwari, who was sergeant of arms in a Zoom world with nothing to do. The club has benefited during this chaotic time of pandemic and Zoom life, thanks to the members. Now here, I'd like to tell you what went into that pivot of Zoom meetings with our VP of Ed, Chris Ado. Chris Ado, could you tell us more about this?
Thank you so much, Kristen. I would be happy to. I will recover a little bit of ground that Kristen covered, which is in early 2022, COVID-19 became a thing. And as people started to take it a little bit more serious and realize that this was something that wasn't necessarily just going to blow over, our club attendance started to drop quickly. On email, as a club, we were very active on email. People spoke up and said, I'm not comfortable coming to the clubhouse right now. I'm a little bit worried. And as we got into early March, we got down to a meeting that only had 3 attendees. And they realized, this is it. We're done with in-person meetings. We need to decide what to do. As Kristen said, Terry took the charge as our president. He sent out an email asking the club what they thought they should do, giving us some broad options. Either abandon the club, switch to online, or try to merge with another club, or something else if anyone had suggestions. Almost unanimously, we all agreed Zoom was the thing for us. And Terry set up a Zoom account, and we switched right away to Zoom meetings. Overall, the club transitioned really smoothly and very comfortably, although there were certainly challenges. Of course, being on Zoom changes things. It's a different stage. It's not the same as being in person. You don't get that immediate feedback necessarily. And certainly if you are talking back and forth with someone, there's that lovely 0.5 second to 1 second delay of when they finish talking and you're ready to talk. And wait, is it your turn? Is it my turn? Whose turn is it to talk? We worked all of that out though, and started to have a lot of fun with our Zoom meetings. And it became very convenient and regular. And certainly people like myself who don't love necessarily driving across town back and forth to the meeting became really easy. I frequently have work meetings that go right up to the start time of our club meeting, and I could keep them. I could end my work meeting, jump into the club Zoom, end the club Zoom, and go right back to another work meeting with no problem at all. That is one of the great things that benefited everyone in the club. Getting familiar with Zoom, getting used to talking to people on Zoom, getting used to presenting, sharing your screen and everything else, because the rest of the world, at least for jobs that could support it, switched to remote work. And with that came a lot more use of Zoom or WebEx or whatever technology your company used, but ultimately they're all the same, a video chat platform. And getting comfortable speaking to other people and connecting with other people through video chat was definitely a challenge for a lot of people. And I feel like Timber Talkers had a real leg up in that. We were getting practice every week at speaking, at thinking about how to speak in front of the camera, even getting feedback from other people on movement and positioning, getting used to thinking of how far back you should stand and whether you should be standing or sitting and what a huge difference it makes. All of those things really helped everyone benefit in as there are many people's jobs transition to being entirely online. One other really fun thing is going to Zoom does give you a entirely different kind of stage, and you can do different things. I think I'm a little bit maybe ahead of the curve, being a technology nerd who has worked from home for 8 years anyway. So this transition was not really a transition for me, it was old hat. But I, for instance, helped with our timing. So I could get the green, the yellow, and the red very easily while people were speaking, make it pretty convenient to see that and do that on Zoom. I could also do fun things, like if someone was speaking just a little too long, I could switch to the yes, everything's fine view. And being able to do things like that really is super fun use of the new technology that we have and being on Zoom. I also used Zoom and a somewhat complicated setup to do a speech one day, recreate a speech. I'm sorry, I remember I had done this speech in person. This was a speech about a reflex, a mammalian diving reflex that you can trigger in your body that will make your spleen dump a bunch of red blood cells and relax you. The way you do this is by holding your breath and plunging your face into a bucket of ice water and keeping it there for at least a minute and maybe longer. I did this in person and years ago at the club, and it was pretty fun, pretty interesting. Everyone had a good time. Some people got scared who had a little concerns about me drowning, but I didn't drown. But in the Zoom world, I set up next to me a clear bucket filled with ice water with a camera on the bottom of the bucket looking straight up. So underneath this bucket, I had that, and I switched my view so you could see me from one view stepping back and then another view looking straight up into the bucket, and I dunked my head down and you could see my face under the water, bubbles going up and everything else for the minute that I kind of shook around and kept my face underwater to demonstrate this mammalian diving reflex. It was, I think, a really good use of the technology and a really exciting and fun way to do it that you would never do if you were meeting in person in a regular old conference room. So switching to this technology, I think, gives all of us in Toastmasters a chance to think a little bit differently and consider different ways and new and interesting ways we could deliver speeches that we may have done back in the old days, but with a new twist. So for us, I think the transition to Zoom has been really successful and really fun, and we're finding a lot of great things to carry forward. We as a club are also thinking we're probably going to continue doing this. We might start meeting in person, but we're going to try to figure out how to keep the digital aspect going as well. As Tom noted, we have a couple new members that are not in this geographic region at all. One of our favorites is all the way out on the East Coast, and I would hate to lose her from the club. So I'm going to make it my personal mission to make sure that we are able to keep her and anyone else who wants to keep meeting via Zoom part of the club. With that, I think I'm going to hand it over to my compatriot, Paul, who's going to talk to us about marketing, I believe. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Spengler, and I'm going to talk about marketing and public relations. So recruiting, marketing, public relations, all at once here. A lot of what Chris said about keeping us digital, I actually see as an opportunity and an advantage from a marketing or PR standpoint. I think with everything being digital, as long as members are okay with it, much like this meeting is being recorded, I think there's an opportunity to record our Toastmasters meetings, whether it's just for members of the club who were unable to attend, who would like to watch a meeting or watch someone's speech, or for broadcasting to a larger audience via social media platforms. Now, one of the best platforms for just reaching out to everyone these days tends to be LinkedIn. And LinkedIn over Facebook for a couple of different reasons. Right now, LinkedIn is really the only social media platform, other than maybe TikTok, that has a very large organic reach. But if we're looking from a professional standpoint, and those who are looking to further their career by getting practice at public speaking, or we're looking for that more professional oriented group, LinkedIn really is great. When I talk about organic reach, I mean that I could post something today, and not only do my connections see it, but it also goes to folks that I am not connected with at all. And that doesn't currently happen on Facebook unless you pay to promote posts or someone chooses to share something. So that's why LinkedIn tends to be better for getting information out there. Now we can use this for a couple of different things. We can use it for recruiting new members. We can advertise for an upcoming meeting that's happening. We can post reasons why you should join Toastmasters and get that out there to the public. And organically, it's going to spread much further than it would on something like Facebook. Now, how do we improve the organic reach on LinkedIn? A couple different ways. Number one, we can tag other people, even if they're members of our current club. If I'm connected on LinkedIn with everyone who's currently in here, I can tag them in it. And the LinkedIn algorithm says, ooh, there's other people tagged in this. It's going to further expand the organic reach of that LinkedIn post. The other thing I can do is within the post include hashtags. LinkedIn's very good with the keywords, hashtag public speaking, hashtag Toastmasters. Just put a bunch of hashtags in there, and people may be looking for certain keywords. So I can do that to also improve my organic reach of my post. Now, if lots of people within the club are posting little things and talking about Toastmasters, that further just increases the reach that your club has. So from a recruiting standpoint, this is how we can get ourselves out there to people who are in our network who we may know, or they may be a second connection, a friend of a connection, or they could be that third connection, someone who has no relation to us whatsoever, but it just happens to come across their page. What types of things catch people's eye when you're posting things on LinkedIn or social media? I find the most popular one to be a video, a very short video clip, something 30 seconds to 1 minute long, very brief, but it catches people's eye. They tend to stop and they watch the video, and as long as they see that it's pretty short, there's a good chance that they're going to watch at least a part of it. And if you have something intriguing or engaging right up front, they may stick around and read the whole video. Other things are going to be images. If you can have an image that you post along with it, maybe even a link to an article that you saw that was interesting. It doesn't necessarily even have to be Toastmasters specifically related. It can really be anything, but then just talk about Toastmasters in the content of the post. Maybe throw a link to the club website, so on and so forth. I think from a recruiting and public relations standpoint, what else might be some interesting content to post out there? Well, if members are okay with it, since we might be recording the Zoom meeting anyway, we can clip down that recording to just grab that speech. It's a little bit longer than the 30 seconds to a minute, but someone could broadcast on their own LinkedIn page, this is a speech that I delivered today in Toastmasters. Really proud of it. Post it out there. Other members from the group can comment on it, like it, so on and so forth. People may say, oh, so that's what a Toastmasters speech looks like. Because if you've never been in Toastmasters, you may have no idea what it looks like and what you're getting into. So that's a little preview of what a Toastmasters speech looks like. Another one that I thought was fun is one of my favorite things in Toastmasters is table topics. And since, again, we're recording the meeting, as long as the person's okay, I think it would be great to say, hey, I won table topics today. I was everyone's favorite. Here's my speech. That one's about a minute anyway. Super easy to do. Clip it down, send it to the person. They can post that. That's engaging content. It's brand new every time as well. So someone can watch that and be like, oh, that's a hilarious Toastmasters table topic speech. I think that sounds kind of fun. So people can get a little preview of what an entire meeting might look like in little digestible chunks. I think using technology to our advantage, using social media is a great way to get this content out there. Now, how did I find Toastmasters? Because I'm a pandemic joiner. I joined Toastmasters because Tom, who spoke earlier, he crashed our party. He crashed my Rotary Club meeting and delivered a little short excerpt about a personal event that happened in his life and what he got out of Toastmasters. That's something that we can't take for granted, that we can access other organizations and club activities with permission to come in and just advertise Toastmasters that way. We don't have to travel anywhere since it's via Zoom. I think we need to use this as an advantage. Tap into our network, see what other organizations or clubs around the area might be having. Let's say, hey, can I come and say something about Toastmasters for 5 minutes? Come in, give a little spiel, and go out. It's a great way to network. That's a word of mouth type thing as well that we can also take advantage of. So I look forward to deploying some of these new things over the next year or so as we navigate through the further digital age of Toastmasters, maybe the hybrid in-person and digital age of Toastmasters. But I think there's a lot of really fun opportunity out there to get creative with the content that we put out to the general public. So next, I'd like to introduce Dave, our current club president, and he's going to talk more about how to navigate things from a club standpoint. Dave, take it away.
Thank you, Paul. Excellent. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all the speakers so far. Wonderful job. Well, I have been in Toastmasters since 1984, and I still haven't learned everything I can in Toastmasters. So I'm excited that the organization, the entire educational program continues to evolve. My portion of today's meeting will just be talking a little bit about leadership. Leadership is motivation, organization, and faith in the people that are working with you. A couple quotes I'd like to give to you. Leadership is the art of giving people a platform for spreading ideas that work. That's from Seth Godin. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. That's from Martin Luther King. The way I look at leadership, it's part logic, part emotion. On the logic portion, any successful organization has to have a plan, has to have something written down. What are your goals? How are you going to get to those goals? How are you going to review those goals? And that's what the great thing about the Distinguished Club program is. It allows already you to have a pre-planned organization that you can follow. There's 10 items in the Distinguished Club plan. And if you're not familiar with it, I'm just going to bring it up here and share my screen. And the screen here is our current scorecard on the Distinguished Club program. We're not too bad. We're not there yet, but we're on the right path. And I'm going to commit to our Vice President of Education that I'm going to get that one additional level 4 so we can get that additional goal so we can achieve our Distinguished Club plan recognition. And it's really important to remember that, as I said, there's logic, there's empathy, and there's emotion involved. So the logic is here. You've got the logic. Here is your plan. 60% of your goals are educational goals. So Christopher is really important to me because he's our Vice President of Education, and his goals are very important to the club. And it's really important to make sure not only your whole executive committee is aware of the Distinguished Club program and reemphasizing where we're at, but along with that, the club is knowing what you need to accomplish. For instance, we have a business meeting, as many clubs do, at the end of our regular meeting. That's a great opportunity to bring up where we're at in terms of being on the Distinguished Club plan and where we at with our goals. And even if you don't have the Distinguished Club plan, have some goals and reinforce that, communicate that to your team, communicate that to the club to make sure that they know where you're at, because everybody wants to be part of a successful club if they're truly part of Toastmasters. And the only way you can do that is to make sure everybody knows which direction you're going and how you're going to achieve that. In addition, at each of our executive meetings, I review that scorecard that I'm just showing you as to how we're doing and asking the team what they thought about where we're at. It's not me dictating to them. This is a voluntary organization. I'm not paying them. I have no right over them. They have other obligations in their families, their jobs, their community, but I'm thankful they're part of the team and they're working with me to achieve these goals. So it's really important to make sure that it's clearly communicated and it's transparent to everybody what the goals are. But as I mentioned, not only do you need to have the goals, you need to have an implementation plan. How are you going to get there? Ask your team. They can help you. They are oftentimes in a better position to tell you how we're going to make it there than you as the club president are. That's why I rely on them. That's why I delegate them. That's why I believe in them. So it's really important to reinforce that. And as I mentioned, the motivation and the empathy. The empathy is you realize that people have other obligations in their lives and that you have to give way to their priorities. But if you can find a way to work with them to help them achieve the priorities outside of Toastmasters, they will often help you achieve the priorities within Toastmasters. So understanding people have different things in different points of their lives and that you need to work with them, but also having a positive message, having a call to action to your team, making sure that they keep focused on where you're going and do everything they can in their power to make it happen. And at the end of the day, I mean, Toastmasters has the 3 levels, the Distinguished Club Plan and the Distinguished Club Award, which is 5 of the 10, the Select Distinguished Club Award, which is 7 of the 10, and the Presidential Distinguished Club Award, which is 9 of the 10. It's great if you achieve the 5 of the 10. You just are recognized as a distinguished club. If you can have a stretch goal to hit that number 9, that's better, because even if you don't make it there, you've helped the group stretch and get there. That's my message today, really, is you need to make sure that people know what the plan is. You need to make sure people understand we have an implementation path. And finally, you need to motivate them, but also be human and personal to them. That is my message to the as a presentation for today. And I now ask that Tom come back in to wrap it up. There we go.
There we go. There we go. There's a couple of highlights that I want to touch base on from all of our presenters here. First of all, Kristen reminded me of something. One of the things that we have done in our club when we were meeting in person is we would meet outside of the office from time to time, meaning outside of our meeting room. There's a park. Again, there was a little playground that's next to the firehouse, but there's a little park like a 45-second walk away. And generally once every summer, sometimes twice, we'd meet over in the park. And everybody'd bring their lawn chairs and something comfortable to sit on. And it was kind of like Elizabethan theater in the round almost. And it was a blast. It was fun, but it was also a change of venue. And I think that it's important to remember that whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person, the experience of being in a new surrounding was very valuable. I had a chance to speak at a couple of those events, and it was very fun. The second thing I want to do is I want to highlight something that Paul said. Paul talked about recording meetings. In the dark old days, one of our members at our club would record our meetings and our speeches with his pre-cell phone video recording device, and then format the video and push it up to YouTube. And he would say, God, this is going to take like an hour and a half to reformat this file and push it up to YouTube. And I'm here to tell you that nothing on YouTube ever dies. So there's one piece of trivia and wisdom. But here's the real meat of that whole thing. There is no more profound experience and self-evaluation than watching yourself give a speech replayed back to yourself. It's humbling, it can be horrifying as well, but it is also a very educational experience. And more than anything, I would urge anybody in Toastmasters and any of you to take the plunge and either record yourself with your smartphone or take the opportunity or in the plunge to record yourself in video, because the amped up ability to do self-evaluation is it's hard to replace that, find that anywhere else. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about membership, and then I want to get into some Q&A. So for those of you who might have some questions, get ready. There's a couple of themes about membership that I want to talk about. One is, another word for driving membership is evangelism. Paul was exposed to that because I got a chance to speak to his Rotary Club. But it wasn't just me. Anybody in a Toastmaster club can speak out on behalf of the club. whether it's in an environment or whether it's one-on-one, or it's across the fence to your neighbor. Because it clearly makes a difference in a lot of lives. The second thing is chasing members, and more to the point, recruiting members also starts with giving your existing club members a reason to stay. And that's part of the magic about, and quite frankly, also the struggle, because so many people come to Toastmasters with a fixed measurement of what they want to accomplish. And what I've been able to see in many cases is that when people get involved in Toastmasters, then they find that there's a much more robust and rich environment for them to learn that they have a reason to stay. So it's twofold or multifaceted. We too have had to make the pivots from an in-person environment to the digital environment, and membership and recruiting is part of that. And so we're still learning, and I'm certainly still learning about it.